Over the last few months, we've gotten a lot of questions from farmers asking, hey, if commodity prices are coming down, should we be waiting longer than normal to buy our fertilizer, our seed, our crop protection products? We're going to talk about that just a little bit today.
Well, it certainly is a little scary as commodity prices go down and you look at your gross revenue per acre as coming down significantly from the previous year. At the same time, you know that the manufacturers have got to be coming down in the prices for some of the inputs that we're going to be using. So yes, we definitely need to run the calculations on everything that we're considering and look at return on investment. Because take weed control, for example, you're really not going to just say, well, I'm going to cut out all my weed control herbicides in the field, because you know it's going to kill you on yield. You're still getting a good return on investment, but you may want to be smart and say, you know, instead of doing this program that costs $25, I can get basically the same control out of a program that costs $20 and save $5. Now that may be something you consider and you can work through with your agronomist.
All right, so when we start talking specifically here, which of these products are we at the low, which ones are still coming down? You know, it really all depends on what happens with commodity prices. If for some reason the crop doesn't turn out as good as they're thinking, then you know what's going to happen? We've got a lot less supply, and by the way, when we have those cheap prices, we're increasing demand over there, so we got an increasing demand, a lowered supply. You know what's going to happen? The commodity prices are going to come back. Well, when commodity prices come back, then all these companies, fertilizer, seed, crop protection, they're thinking, well, if crop prices come back, do we really need to lower our prices at all? I mean, personally, I guess I'm just looking at, I don't know that fertilizer has bottomed out. They haven't even set the seed prices yet, or the ones that are set. You know, there might be some extra programs out there to help you. I do think there are going to be a lot more tie-in programs this coming year between all the different crop protection products, all the different seed products. So for example, if you buy a company's seed corn and you buy their soybeans, they'll probably have some extra deals for you this year. If you buy from a crop protection manufacturer the second item or the third item, you know, maybe there's an extra layer in there. A lot of the companies have been talking about that. There's also going to be some 0% finance offers on a lot of the seed and a lot of the crop protection products. So with many of these things, if you just play them right, then you should be able to lower your net cost at least a little bit. So yeah, overall, we're expecting all three of those categories, fertilizer, seed, crop protection, to all be down at least just slightly going into 2015 because of what commodity prices have done, at least to this point.
People will ask, is it the right time to market my grain? And I look at that fertilizer piece being such a large input investment, you know, compared to crop protection is relatively small. Seed and fertilizer are much bigger investments that you're making on your farm. So when you're making those big purchasing decisions, you definitely have to look at, well, can I make money right now if I market that crop? And yeah, you may not like where that price level is at right now, but if you can lock in a profit, that's definitely something you have to consider. We've seen that over the last decade now, where crop prices have been high and fertilizer prices and seed prices have been relatively high. If you lock them all in at the same time, you locked in a really nice profit margin. If you gambled and said, well, you know, corn is way up here and seed prices, you know, I don't know, I'm going to sell some corn and I'm not going to buy my seed, I'm going to wait. Well, then the seed price adjusted and went up higher, you lost that profit margin. The same thing can happen the other way. If you're buying your fertilizer right now and you're not going to lock in any of your crop sales, you may have the thing go the other way on you. That crop price may come down even further and you bought high-priced fertilizer. So just consider that. If you're spending the big money, if you're investing the big money into your crop with seed and with fertilizer, that's a time to consider marketing at least a portion of your crop to cover those costs.
The other thing is certainly we are going to have a number of crop shifts this year. I believe that we'll see fewer corn acres going into 2015, and the reason why is because a lot of guys are saying, well, even if I look at the seed, I spend $100 an acre on corn seed versus $50 an acre on soybeans, I can invest a lot fewer dollars in that soybean acre. But I just want to remind you, when we start talking about fertilizer, a lot of people will say, well, soybeans are a scavenger crop. No, they're not a scavenger crop. Soybeans have 1/5 the root mass of a corn plant on average. So which do you think is the better scavenger crop, corn or soybeans? It's not soybeans. My point is, if you want better yields on soybeans and you want a decent return on investment, you might still consider using fertilizer for your soybeans. So don't be thinking, well, fertilizer prices are still high, so I'm just going to switch all my acres to soybeans and put no fertilizer on. Yeah, you can do that, but you're probably not going to end up with a real great profit margin when your soybeans don't yield well. I guess let's be very specific here before we let this thing go. I'd say maybe on glyphosate, now might be a pretty good time to buy. There might be some deals come spring too, but I mean, it's so few dollars now. Glyphosate, that might be okay. For many of the other branded products out there in crop protection, I'd probably wait and see what the companies have for programs before I buy. On fertilizer, I definitely wait to buy until I need it, and maybe even until spring. I think the fertilizer prices have still been coming down for the most part. And then on seed, you're just gonna have to wait and see as we get later in this fall what kind of deals there are if you buy the seed corn together with the soybean seed, and maybe there are some overall packages there. But you are gonna have some companies out there that are desperate. They're going to lower their prices, and you might want to snap those up, because for many of them, they're just trying to hit a goal. And once they've hit that goal, you're going to see them raise their prices. So it might seem a little strange, but some of the companies that get real aggressive early, later on, they're going to end up raising their prices.
Well, you definitely have to consider all these inputs and look at places where you can cut back and places where you don't want to cut back. And one of the things you definitely can't cut back on is on controlling our weed of the week. If you have this week's tough weed, we'll show you how to stop it coming up next.